Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a really fascinating collection. It's all about apartment building designs from, well, all over the world.
Yeah, and our goal isn't just, looking at nice pictures. We want to really unpack the thinking behind them. What are the
Mm.
core ideas? Find some of those maybe surprising takes on urban living.
And the first thing you notice just flipping through is the sheer variety. It's not just one style.
No, not at all. You immediately see how different cultures, different environments, social priorities maybe, how they all shape these buildings. It's more than just stacking flats.
Exactly. And the global reach is pretty striking too. It's not just Europe or North America. We've got projects here from the Americas, Asia, Oceania, all over.
It really makes you think about the different ways people actually live in cities across the planet. These buildings tell stories.
Okay, so let's dive in. Europe seems like a good place to start. Looks like there's a lot happening there.
Europe's definitely a great starting point. I mean, such a long history of cities, diverse cultures. It makes for some really unique residential designs.
So kicking off in the Netherlands, Amsterdam,
Hmm.
the Django building. And what's interesting here, it says it's one of the lowest buildings in a high-rise area.
Yeah, that definitely catches your
That
eye.
feels quite deliberate, doesn't it, in such a dense place?
It really does. Suggests maybe a different approach to fitting in, more human scale perhaps, better connection to the street level.
Could be.
And it mentions two towers, a sunken garden, varied facade. Sounds like they're really thinking about the residents' experience. Plus, things like good orientation for sunlight, innovative cooling, that points to comfort, sustainability, and communal storage, too.
Oh, that's practical.
Super practical. Little things like that can make a big difference for community feel in apartments.
Okay, moving over to Rotterdam. The Red Apple sounds much more like a landmark right on the waterfront, One Haven Island, part of a redevelopment too.
All right, so this one's probably intended to be a focal point, architecture driving urban renewal.
Yeah, you see that a lot.
Absolutely. And the mix is key here. Residential, shops, cafes, businesses. It's about creating that vibrant, mixed-use neighborhood where you can live, work, hang out.
And being on the water on three sides.
Huge visual impact. Plus, it probably influences the apartment layouts, the views.
Yeah.
Really enhances the living experience, I'd imagine.
Okay, let's head north. Denmark. Quite a few interesting ones here. First, Harbor Isle Apartments in Copenhagen. Waterfront again, near the city center. That location must be amazing.
Yeah, that connection to the city and the water is powerful. Waterfront living often brings this desire for, light and openness.
Makes sense.
And the design seems to reflect that.
Mm.
U-shaped blocks, inner courtyards, that suggests a balance between private life and shared space. And the description of white facades, warm stucco, big glass sections, luminous balconies reflecting the surroundings. It all screams light and air, trying to maximize the views and brightness.
Then, still in Copenhagen, the Tietjen Dormitory. A circular building for student housing. That's definitely unusual.
Very unusual. Not your typical dorm block at all.
Why do that? What's the thinking?
Well, think about it, housing 400 students. A circle could really foster a sense of community, make interaction easier maybe?
Fewer long corridors, more central points.
Possibly. The source says it aims to express both the collective and the individual. That's a fascinating challenge, right?
Yeah, how do you balance that?
The circular layout might encourage those chance encounters, create more natural shared spaces, but individual rooms still give you that private retreat. It's clever.
Okay, staying in Denmark but heading to Aalborg. Housing plus Ekehjem. A zero-energy housing scheme. It aims to produce more energy than it uses.
Yeah, now that's ambitious. It's a really bold statement about sustainable living, isn't it?
Totally. How does it work?
It's all about integrated energy design. Solar panels, heat pumps. The whole building is designed around energy efficiency. Even the roof is sloped and oriented specifically to maximize solar gain.
Wow. So the building itself is part of the energy solution.
Exactly. Makes you think, could all new buildings do this? Contribute to the grid?
It's a powerful idea. Okay, back to Copenhagen for Nordlyset. This one's in a former industrial district.
Right, so you're dealing with that context of regeneration.
It mentions white polished brick, smooth forms, sounds quite clean, maybe a contrast to the industrial past.
Could be, or maybe a subtle nod. Redeveloping these areas often involves that kind of dialogue between old and new. And the fact that the design responds to sun and wind includes an inner courtyard that suggests creating a comfortable, sheltered space. The courtyard becomes like a private little oasis.
Then there's Esther Brigade 105, also Copenhagen. Red brick, but with these copper-clad boxes as balcony.
Oh, that sounds visually interesting.
Yeah, and they vary in size and how much they stick out.
Right, so that dynamism is key. They're not just functional balconies. They break up the facade, add texture, plus large windows,
Right.
like lots of light inside, with these nice sheltered outdoor spots.
Another Copenhagen one, Silhouetten, unique triangular shape.
Triangles are always tricky in architecture.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the inside layout, right? The flow.
Definitely, it forces you out of the standard rectangular box thinking. But it can lead to really innovative layouts, maybe more varied views because of the angles. You might get distinct zones within apartments, capture specific vistas.
And the last one for Denmark, the wave in Visual, described as sculptural, organic, right on the promenade. Sounds almost like land art.
It really does. The description, white curves reflecting the sea and sky, must be stunning visually, blurring the lines between the building and the water.
And inside.
Get this, 140 apartments, but with two-story house plans within the larger building.
Whoa, like townhouses stacked up?
Kind of. Blending the space of a house with apartment convenience. A real focus on creating a unique, desirable place to live.
Okay, let's move south to Spain. First, apartments leveled houses in Cerrado. The name itself, leveled houses, suggests fitting into the landscape.
Yeah, that integration seems central. Using local materials, wood, glass, concrete, helps it blend.
As a structure.
It's stepped, following the terrain.
Yeah.
The roof adapts to the land.
Yeah.
It's about minimizing disruption, respecting the natural contours,
And living quality.
emphasis on cross-ventilation, views of the Asturian landscape.
Mm.
It really embraces the natural setting, comfort plus that visual connection.
Then we jump to a Bratislava suburb in Slovakia. Actually, Spark. Focus here is on community feel, public spaces.
That's so important, especially in suburban areas, which can sometimes feel isolating.
True.
And it's being built in 2 stages, suggesting a long-term vision. Not just houses, but the social fabric, too. It's in a developing area, mixing higher density with lower-rise stuff. You're trying to get that balance right for suburban growth.
On to Germany now. Terrace House Tokyo Strasse in Berlin. Layered, terrace-like, with private gardens and balconies.
Right, it sounds like it's trying to bring a bit of that suburban feel, private outdoor space into the city.
A garden in a Berlin apartment building.
Or a decent balcony, yeah. By layering the units like that, each gets its own connection to the outdoors. It's a smart way to handle density while giving people that private green space they often crave.
Also in Berlin, JOH3 apartment house, Johannesstrasse, near Museum Island prime spot.
Absolutely. Location, location.
But it also mentions southwest-facing apartments, carefully designed courtyard gardens. Sounds like an urban oasis.
Exactly. The location's a draw, but the design quality matters too. Good light, those private gardens. It's about creating a retreat from the city buzz. And varied layouts too, even townhouses within the block.
Interesting. Then Sonnenhof in Jena, a complex right in the historical center, mix of residential and commercial.
And the key here seems to be integration.
How so?
It allows free access through the grounds, connecting with the existing pathways, and it respects the small scale of the historical buildings around it. It's about fitting in sensitively, blending old and new.
Feinderephof, another German one, mentions special sequences and variations in terraces and balconies.
Sounds like attention to detail.
Yeah, and focusing on well-lit private spaces. Plus, sliding shutters for sun and privacy.
See those elements: light, privacy control with shutters, different types of outdoor spaces. That's what really elevates apartment living, gives residents more control, more comfort.
Okay, crossing over to the UK, London first, Adelaide Wharf. Mixed tenure housing along Regent's Canal.
Mixed tenure is interesting, trying to create more diverse communities by mixing private and social housing.
Right. And it uses colored board cladding, adds a bit of visual punch to the canal side.
Probably, yeah. Adds interest, maybe helps differentiate parts of the building too.
Then Barking Central, also London, big regeneration project for the town center.
Sounds like it. Mix of apartments, hotel, retail, public space.
And it integrates a new concrete frame with an existing library.
That's really comprehensive regeneration, using architecture as a catalyst, bringing together different uses, even blending new and old structures, creating a real community hub.
Now Manchester. Abido Apartments Greengate, designed after building a full-size mock-up.
Whoa, really? That's commitment.
Isn't it? Shows they really wanted to get the space right before building.
Lets you test things, fix problems early, very hands-on.
And it's on a triangular site looking towards the cathedral. Must have a unique feel.
The site shape and orientation towards a landmark definitely shaped the design, responding to that specific urban spot.
The other Manchester one, Abido Apartments, Salford Quays, Waterfront again, old dock warehouse site.
Classic post-industrial redevelopment. Salford Quays is a big example of that.
This one's described as compact, but with generous balconies, and uses prefab bathrooms and kitchens.
Okay, so compact design probably means efficiency, maximizing units, but the balconies give back that private outdoor space, the water views.
And the prefab.
Speeds up construction, potentially better quality control, maybe keeps costs down. Modern methods.
Right. Let's jump over to Estonia, Alamaja in Tallinn. Edge of the medieval old town. That's a sensitive spot.
Hugely sensitive. Designing next to a UNESCO site. Big responsibility.
It mentions dynamic massing, using local stone. Sounds like trying to be modern but respectful.
Exactly. Dynamic massing avoids just being a big block. Using local stone creates that visual link to the historic architecture, bridging old and new.
Then the Koijula apartment building, also Tallinn, near a park, combines an old renovated part with a new wing.
That mix of old and new can be really rich architecturally. Tells a story.
And the goal was apparently to let residents see the depth and beauty of the plot from inside.
So a real focus on the connection to the green surroundings, integrating the building with nature, enhancing that connection for the people living there.
Slovenia next. Social housing Poljane in Maribor. 4 buildings, 130 social apartments.
And the design details sound thoughtful for social housing.
Like what?
Creating semi-private outdoor spaces encourages interaction, gives people places to relax, and varying the balcony positions.
Why vary the balconies?
Adds visual interest, avoids monotony, but also gives different apartments slightly different views, different light. It shows care for the individual experience.
Makes sense. Then student housing Poljane in Giljana, edge of the city center. Series of public spaces for students.
Again, that focus on community spaces for students is key, supporting student life.
And it has these eyes like windows for the bedrooms.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds memorable. A strong visual identity. They might have a functional reason too, unique views, maybe light, but they definitely give the building character.
Austria now. Wohngartensensgasse in Vienna. Variety of apartment types, open spaces.
And a really interesting core concept.
Which is?
Staggering 2 apartment floors to form a single unit.
How does that work?
It breaks up the typical stack, might create double height spaces, unique connections between levels inside an apartment, potentially more light, more air, creates spaciousness and intimacy, as they put it, more individuality.
Clever. Italy's contribution, SD1 in Cesena, revitalizing an old industrial area, but on a low budget.
Ah, the real-world constraint.
Right. But they still aimed for good architecture, innovative energy design.
That often forces creativity. You
Yeah.
know? Budget limits make you prioritize, find smart solutions. The energy focus shows commitment to sustainability, even with less money. Resourceful design.
Okay, last country in Europe, France. First, 36 apartments and medical center in Marie-Agnes de Sicourt, part of a bigger redevelopment.
And it talked about a dialogue between public and private space.
How?
The medical center is on the ground floor, seen as a continuation of the public realm. It integrates a community service right into the building.
So it serves residents and the wider neighborhood?
Exactly. Blurs those lines, makes it more integrated.
And finally, Apartments S in Mechelen. New living spaces where a school used to be.
Adaptive reuse, basically.
It mentions dividing the building into 2 volumes, oriented by an inner area, and varying cornice heights to reflect the street.
That shows real sensitivity to context. Responding to the site's history, fitting into the streetscape. That's good urban infill, making the new building feel like it belongs.
So that's a whirlwind tour of Europe. But as we said, the source mentions projects in the Americas, Asia, Oceania too. We didn't get into the detail.
No, but just knowing they're there is exciting. It shows this conversation about apartment design is truly global.
Yeah, maybe something for future deep dives.
Absolutely. It hints there's a whole lot more out there. Different climates, cultures, different solutions to explore. It underlines that urban living challenges are universal, but the responses are incredibly diverse.
So wrapping up this European leg, the big takeaway for me is just the sheer ingenuity, the variety.
Totally. Every project is such a specific response to its place, its constraints, its goals.
We've seen so many innovative solutions for sustainability, for community, for just making city living better, more comfortable, more beautiful even.
And collectively, you see these evolving priorities, don't you? More focus on sustainability, definitely, on building community, on creating more sort of humane environments within cities. That seems to cut across different countries.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you listening. We've heard about all these different approaches, how architects thought about light, space, community, nature. How could those principles maybe inform how you think about your own home or maybe the future of cities in your area.
Yeah, what can we learn from these global examples about balancing our own needs, our private lives, with the reality of living together in cities? How do we strike that balance better?
Definitely some food for thought there.
Hmm?
Until our next deep dive.